It's officially 2004, which means the new NCAA football game is coming out a little bit later this year, or as it's now going to be called, EA Sports College Football. Now, this game has been in development for some years now, and I've posted a ton of videos about it over the years when we've gotten leaks from certain sources, and even when we've gotten a little bit of news from EA Sports themselves. Well, with it now being officially 2024, and with this game being just a few short months away at this point, I figured it was time to make a video and go over everything you need to know about the upcoming game, everything that we know so far via the leaks and from EA Sports themselves. And if you don't want to miss out on any of these important updates or leaks, as we're going to start getting even more information the closer we get to release, make sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon on. That way you never miss any of these important videos when they go live. And if I sound a little bit under the weather, it's just my allergies. They've kind of been acting up pretty badly today, but got to get the video out for you guys. Now, I know some of you have been watching a lot of these videos over the past few years, so some of this information some of you will know. There are some new little tidbits and some leaks and some kind of hints even from Kirk Herbstreit himself that he dropped recently that I'm going to include in here, but this is basically just a big wrap-up video to kind of cover everything we know, everything we found out over the last year or so, in case you've missed anything, and for the new people that are kind of just now finding out about the game, they can get up to speed and know everything that we know so far. Now, first off, the name of the game. They're supposedly not calling it NCAA Football anymore, but instead they're going to call it EA Sports College Football. Probably it's going to officially be titled EA Sports College Football 25 as it's coming out this year. And you know, with sports games like Madden and 2K, they name them the following year. So if it's coming out in 2024, on the game, it's going to be called 25. And I do believe this is a game that they intend to put out yearly, just like they do with Madden and with FIFA, which is now called EA Sports FC. I do believe they're going to keep doing that with the college football game. I don't see why they wouldn't, as they do that with all their other sports games, and pretty much every sports game does that anyway. So EA Sports College Football 25 is going to be the name. Now, we don't have an official concrete release date just yet, but we do know it's coming out this summer because EA has said it multiple times, even recently, saying everything's on schedule now and it's going to be coming out this summer. Probably it's going to be July because that's when it always came out in the past, about a month before Madden would drop. So we're probably looking at about early to mid-July for this release this year. Now, in terms of when we're going to be finding out more about the game, maybe more specifically even a release date, there's been a lot of hints and rumors that we could be getting a bit of a teaser during the national championship game, which is in about a week. I want to say maybe less than a week at this point. We should be having a little bit of a teaser during that game. Now, it's not 100%, it's not confirmed, but a lot of sources have said that EA has been wanting to kind of start putting information out about the game from them themselves rather than the leaks that have been coming out. And from what people have been hearing, they think that they want to kind of use the national championship game as kind of a launching off point to drop a little bit of a teaser, which would probably be a release date or something like that, just to get people more excited. Now let's move on to how you're going to be able to play the game. What consoles will it be on? Because that is a big question that's been asked. This game has been said to only be coming out on the newer generation consoles, meaning the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X/S. This is not going to be on last gen PS4 or Xbox One, which makes sense because even this year, all of the current sports games like Madden and 2K and FIFA, games like that, are likely not going to be on last gen anymore either. Usually once we get to year 4 or moving into year 4 of the new consoles, they stop making the game for last gen. And you saw that with Madden this year, how it pretty much got almost no updates. It was basically just an exact copy of last year with very, very minimal changes, basically just roster updates and things like that, but it didn't get any of the new features, anything added to the modes, which means the games are on their way out now and they're not going to be putting them out next year. So with NCAA or EA Sports College Football coming out this year, they're not going to be putting it on last gen, and they've even come out and said that this is going to be next gen exclusive, as we're already kind of halfway through this current generation that we're in. Now, will it be on PC? That is the one thing that we do not know, but I would assume so, seeing as they have their other sports games on PC now, including Madden, which they just finally kind of gave the full update on PC. If you remember, Madden on PC for the last couple of years had been the old gen version of the game and not the newer gen. This year they finally brought that up to speed. So seeing as they're still investing into PC, I don't see why this game wouldn't be released on PC, but don't expect it on last gen and don't expect it on the Switch because EA just does not put their sports games on the Switch. Hold up, stop right there. If you like money and you know sports, then you've got to be on Underdog Fantasy. Their pick'em game allows you to choose from a wide variety of player stats, and all you simply have to do is pick higher or lower, and if you know sports at all, this really isn't that hard, and if they hit, you win money. And the best part about Underdog fantasy is if you sign up using my promo code RAY, R-A-Y, they're going to give you a free play at sign up, and they're also going to double your first deposit up to $100. So at sign up, basically, they will give you a random player that all he has to do is get a single yard. Usually it's a quarterback. Sometimes it could be a running back or a receiver, but it'll be a random player to get 1 yard, and if it hits, you win. So they help you win some free money right out the gate, plus they give you the deposit match so that you have free money to play with. For this week's Sunday Night Football game, they're going to give you Josh Allen to get a single yard, and all throughout NBA season, they're going to give you random players throughout the week to get a single point, like LeBron James or Kevin Durant. Remember, sign up using code RAY to get the free plays and get the $100 deposit match. You just can't beat it. Now, will the game be cross-platform? Everything points to yes. EA has made their other sports games cross-platform. EA Sports FC was cross-platform, and this year Madden officially went over to cross-platform as well. So there's literally no reason to believe that the college game would not be cross-platform along with those. It just kind of wouldn't make any sense. Now, let's talk about game modes. What do we know so far about game modes? Now, this one's a little bit interesting because we got a lot of leaks about this, but EA has even spoken publicly on a few of these as well. So we know, above all else, Dynasty mode is going to be the flagship mode. EA said that themselves, and they said that they know how important it is for this mode to be really good, to be really deep, and to be just as good, if not better, than what they had on NCAA 14, because people still play that game to this day. They love the Dynasty mode in that game, among some of the other modes as well, but Dynasty mode is really the big one that most people play, and they know how important that is. And I think especially looking at franchise with Madden, though they've been doing a little bit better over the last few years to finally do some more stuff and bring stuff back to franchise mode, they know how much that mode is lacking compared to the other games out there. So when you have NCAA that was always known for a banger Dynasty mode, and they've had all these years to work on it, there's really no reason for that game to launch and be lackluster or be worse than NCAA 14, because they've had plenty of time to put in all of the things that people could ask for. So we know that that's going to be the big driving mode. We know it's going to include things like the updated conferences, which we know are changing next year. It's going to have the updated college football playoff, which is now expanded to more teams. It's going to also have a heavy focus on the offseason and recruiting, as well as the transfer portal and even NIL. They said that, or at least one of the leaks said, that they know how important the offseason aspect of Dynasty mode is, and they want it to feel rewarding when you're able to recruit players or get transfers from other teams and then be able to use them the following season. And with the transfer portal being such a huge deal now and the NIL being such a huge deal now, they want that represented in the video game. Whereas back in NCAA 14, yeah, I mean, you still had people that transferred here, but it wasn't nothing like it is now. I mean, it's like a huge free agency kind of deal now with college football. So they want all of that represented in the game, and it will be there. The college football game is also going to have Road to Glory, the career mode. That is the next biggest mode that people loved, and it's going to cross over to Madden just like it did back in the old days. Same with Dynasty mode and the draft classes and things like that. But Road to Glory is going to be another one of the big staple modes that you're going to be able to kind of create your character, more than likely start off in high school just like you were able to before, work your way up, sign to a college, kind of work your way in a starting position, and we'll see what else they do with that. I'm sure they're going to include a lot of the mini games, as they just brought that back to Madden. They're going to have that seamless transition from college to the Madden games as well, and they've come out and said themselves that one of their biggest focuses going forward with Madden is the return of Superstar mode, which came back this year, and they want to really build that out and make it better than ever. And it makes sense with the college football game coming back, because with Road to Glory being such a big mode, they want those two to kind of grow together and be able to work very well with one another. And right now, Superstar mode kind of just isn't really quite there. So I think with the next Madden game, you're going to see Superstar mode take a bigger jump as well because of Road to Glory coming back in this college game. And of course, Ultimate Team is also confirmed to be in the game. I know a lot of people probably aren't happy to hear that, but NCAA 14 had an Ultimate Team mode as well, and it's one of the best football games ever. Now, are they going to be a little more aggressive than they were back then with microtransactions? I mean, more than likely we'll see what they do with it, but it is going to have an Ultimate Team mode 100%. Now, in terms of gameplay and how the game is being made, we do know that it's going to be on the Madden engine. That's another thing that a lot of people are a little worried about, which is understandable, because the Frostbite engine for Madden, you know, it seems like we've had a lot of issues with Madden since the Frostbite engine got introduced, and it wasn't even originally created to be a sports gaming engine. So there obviously are a lot of people that are a little bit worried about that. They would like for Madden or EA to move on from the Frostbite engine. So to hear that we're getting that with NCAA can be a little worrisome, but I think the one big difference is with NCAA, they've had so many years to work on this, polish it out, make it good. And we've seen with Madden over the past couple of years, the gameplay has objectively gotten a little bit better. Is it as good as it could be? No, of course not. But we've seen when they've put more time into things like tackling and DB play and kind of making the animations a little bit better, that the game can actually play a lot better than it was in the early stages of Frostbite. So if you have like 4 years to build NCAA, I do think you can actually still get a better gameplay product just because you have more time to work on it and smooth things out. Now, other than that, the gameplay aspect of the game, we haven't really heard too much on yet, other than we know that they want it to feel like college football, which makes sense. I mean, the old college football games, while they were always based off of Madden, meaning they were on the same engine, they were kind of taken from the same base game, it still felt a little different because you have, the wider hash marks, you have the crazier plays and playbooks, you have some of the different rule sets, and it just felt like a little bit more of a fast-paced game like the real college game does. So even though it's going to be on the same engine as Madden, it's going to be kind of coming from the Madden base. Again, I know that worries some people, and it's a valid thing to worry about, but the old NCAA games always did the same thing, down to the fact that the money plays that worked in Madden would work the same way in NCAA. The blitzes that were kind of overpowered would work the exact same way each year in NCAA as they did in Madden because they were the same game, but still, the NCAA game always felt a little more fun and a little bit better to play, so I think the same thing can still hold true this time around. We do know that the playbooks are another big area of focus, as they have to be. I mean, the college game can't really be what it is if you don't get crazy with the playbooks. That was always one of the best things about the old NCAA games, was you just had all kind of crazy playbooks, all kind of crazy formations, down to the fact that, some teams run, wishbone, and some teams run a lot of option and stuff like that, a lot of triple option, and you're going to have all that in the game as well. If you don't have that, it really takes away from the game. So we do know that that's another really big area of focus going into this game. In terms of rosters where we get real teams, real players, real logos, yes, all of that's going to be in the game. You're going to have the exact logos, the exact teams, the exact stadiums, the exact bowl games, even some of the exact sponsors for some of these big bowl games and stuff like that as well for the rivalry games. In terms of rosters, they have an opt-in right now for usage of name, image, and likeness of players. They're going to pay each player a flat fee, and if they opt in, they're going to be in the game. If certain players just don't want to opt in because they don't feel like it's enough money, then they can choose to not opt in. But from everything that we've heard, most players want to opt in. Most players kind of care more about being in the game than the little bit of compensation that they're going to get for being in it. They just want to be in the game from all accounts that we've heard from leaks and just players talking about it. So you're not going to have every single player of every single team because it's just kind of not practical with how big the rosters are and how many college teams there are out there. But most of the big names for every team should be in the game. At least half of the roster of every team should be in the game. You're not going to have some of the more unknown players or some of the guys lower down the depth chart, but you're going to have pretty much all the guys that you would know and more. Now, in terms of which schools are going to be in the game, as far as we know, all FBS schools will be in the game. They're all on board with it. All of the conferences should be in the game as well, from the Power 5 conferences to, some of the smaller ones. And we know there's going to be some conference realignment happening. That's all going to take place in the game as well. Now, in terms of FCS and HBCUs, they did not come out and say that all of those would be in the game at launch. From what we've heard, they're going to be in the game at some point, but probably not at launch. At launch, their main goal is just getting all of the FBS schools in, all of those players in, all of those teams, logos, stadiums, because you have to think about it. It's more than just putting teams in a game. It's about the stadium. It's about, part of the campus, because they're getting all that stuff too. They got the mascots. They've got the crowds. They're also, in terms of presentation, doing things like getting actual songs that are played at each game, actual crowd chants from each game. They're getting, the walkout, the stuff that they do at halftime or after the game. They're getting all the stuff for rivalry games. So it's not so much just putting teams in the game, but it's everything that comes along with putting teams in, down to the rosters, the stadiums, the atmosphere, the crowd, and all of that. So they want to make sure that the main focus is FBS teams at launch. But in terms of FCS and HBCUs, we do know that they're going to come at some point, whether it be in an update later that year, or it might be one of the selling points for the next iteration of the game where they add those in. That's what I think they'll likely do, but at some point they will be there. Now, in terms of announcers and other presentation things, we do know that ESPN is going to be included in the game. That was one of the bigger leaks that we found out about. We also know that College Game Day is going to be in the game as well, which is really good to hear. Kirk Herbstreit has hinted at being in the game a couple of times, even recently. When asked about the game, he pretty much hinted and confirmed it, yeah, it is coming back. back, and, I've heard something about it. Kirk Herbstreit more than likely will be in the game as he was in the last iteration of the game. We're probably going to have some stuff like Pat McAfee and things like that in there as well, although that hasn't been confirmed yet. And we also know that in another leak that the Madden game is going to be getting more announcers and more announced crews in the game coming up this year as well, which makes sense with NCAA coming back. They're probably going to have a guy like Kirk Herbstreit, who does now do some announcing in the NFL. If they're getting him in this game, which all signs point to they are, he's probably going to be able to double dip, and he's going to also be part of the Madden game as well. So all that stuff lines up, meaning he's going to be in the game along with some other guys, but we should definitely have kind of multiple announced crews, ESPN College Game Day, and all of that good stuff. Now, to speak a little bit more on some of the presentation and like the atmosphere and pageantry stuff, I've talked about it a ton on this channel, but all the leaks we've gotten from actual emails that schools have been sending to EA is asking for a ton of information. They want a bunch of detail. They know how important it is to get this game right because it's not been out in so long, and the fact that they've had multiple years to do it means that they can do as much as they want. They can make sure that every little detail for the most part is in there for launch, and so we've seen them ask for all the different helmet and uniform combinations from schools. We want the mascots, the dances, we want actual chants from the crowd, actual sound bites of different chants that the crowd does during games, band songs, when they play these band songs, certain even licensed music with like Wisconsin, for example, I believe they play Jump Around, and I want to say Virginia Tech, they have Enter Sandman, and you have a lot of these different things for schools that they play certain songs during a run out or, at a big part of the game or whenever it is. Every school has their different little traditions, which makes college and the atmosphere so great, and EA wants to include as much of that as possible. They're going to license some of these real songs for some of the bigger schools and their traditions so that you actually hear them in the game. They want as many uniform combinations as possible. They said that, for each team, they're definitely going to be including all of the important uniform combinations, not just home and away, but some of the extra stuff that they wear, especially for a team like Oregon who has so many different ones. They want to include all that stuff in the game. They want even actual historic like landmarks in the stadium. They're rendering the stadiums, but like even the campus in the background for some of these, institutions. They want some of the, legendary things that might be around some of these stadiums, or even some of the famous fans that you might see, or kind of well-known legendary fans that have been fans of this team for a long time and they always attend the games. They want all of that detail in the game, which to me means that they're doing everything right, and it's exciting to hear. In terms of customization, this is another thing we've heard about more recently, and supposedly customization is going to be a very big factor in this game, which is nice to hear because if you play Madden, you know that the customization is very lackluster and very behind in Madden. But again, when you have so many years to make a game, you kind of can approach it more from leaving no stones left unturned, or at least very few of them, whereas with Madden, it comes out every single year, and the areas that it's behind in, you're constantly having to play catch up because you have to kind of fix some of the other issues that pop up year to year. You have to address people's pain points with the game year to year, and then you also got to add back old things that were removed, or try to also add some new things in there from time to time that have never been done. So when you have to do that, you kind of get caught in the state that Madden is, where it's lacking in certain areas, whereas with NCAA having so long to make it, you can kind of make sure that you nail everything, or at least get everything in a pretty good spot. And we know that customization is said to be a very, very big focal point for that game. We know it should for sure, at the very least, have a creative team. And, when you're doing things like Dynasty Mode and Road to Glory, customization was always another one of those big parts of NCAA, down to your character and equipment, but also creating schools, because that's a really big thing that people like to do. In terms of actual team builder returning, which was in NCAA 14, which was kind of create a team on steroids. You had a website you can go on. I think you could even upload custom logos if I'm not mistaken, but you could literally customize every single thing you could think of about the team, the school, kind of the prestige of the school, and all these little details. It is said that that is on the table to return, but if I had to guess, I don't think we would see that in the first iteration of this game. I think that would come a little bit later, but it's been said that it is on the table even for the first year. But I think at the very least we'll at least get, create a team or create a school, and definitely have something deeper than what we see in Madden. And one of the biggest things that makes me very confident about this game, outside of just how long they've had to work on it, is also the fact that some of the same people who did work on NCAA, they brought to the EA Sports College Football team, and those same people are working on this game, so they know what it takes to make a good NCAA game. But also on top of that, they've even, in enlisted the help of some of the people that did the college football revamped mods over the years and kind of kept the NCAA game alive. And if you know about college football revamped, you know the detail those guys put in the game year in and year out. So to have those guys on board helping EA also gives me more confidence about the game because they have the right people there that know what the community wants. Now, I mentioned earlier in this video that we got a pretty big leak about Madden 25 and what they're going to be doing with the announce crew. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check out this video right here on the screen.